Demon Iblis in Islam, the Shaitan's impact on human history. Iblis, Satan, the most important leader of unbelief, is in Islam from among the jinn, and not as it is considered in Christianity from among the fallen angels. Iblis is the leader of the Shaitans from among the jinn and humans. Iblis as a cause of death of people from atheistic science. For thousands of years, both believers in the Almighty and atheists have been asking the fundamentally important question for man: if God is almighty and merciful, why is the entire history of people as a tragedy, full of pain, suffering, loss and death? Periods of peaceful life and prosperity have passed as illusory glimpses of people's happiness. The atheists gloated in their false triumph, believing that this proved the absence of a creator. Many believers felt agonizing bewilderment, not understanding the inner divine regularities of the events taking place on this earth. Who is Iblis in Islam and how he is connected with Satan in Christianity? Although many people, even atheists, subconsciously realize that all the pain and suffering of individuals and society come not from the Almighty alone, but from themselves, as an expression of their imperfection. Therefore, the idea was formed that all bad things come from ourselves. Our inner negative emotions, dissatisfaction with our position, society and weather, envy, condemnation, indignation, irritability, resentment, despondency and fear will sooner or later, but necessarily cause illness, suffering and painful death. Such is divine justice, which is also expressed in the laws of nature. Every action causes opposition. Allah, as the supreme judge, rewards each individual according to his or her merits, illnesses of varying degrees, misfortune according to fate, failure of plans and early death. The meaning of monotheistic beliefs, Islam and Christianity, is the formation of a stable worldview that only through serving the Creator can a human person and society achieve harmonious development, i.e. save themselves and the Ummah from the above-mentioned disasters. The Bible and the Quran contain information about the root cause that pushes people to the path of self-destruction, suffering and death. In brief, this story can be summarized as the fall of the first humans into sin because of the wiles of Satan. To Muslims, it is known as the story of Iblis, who disobeyed his creator, as narrated in the ayats of Surah al-Hijr. Meaning, and remind them, O Muhammad, of that story when your Lord said to the angels, "Verily, I will create man from thick clay, from clay that is moist and changed in color and smell." 28. And when I give him the full form of a man and blow into him the soul that belongs to me and he becomes a living man, then fall down before him, saluting him and expressing your reverence for him. 29. And the angels bowed down. It was a bow of greeting and expressing reverence, not a bow of acknowledging a god or exaltation, before Adam altogether. 30. Except Iblis, who refused to comply with the Lord's command and be with those who bowed down. 31. He, Allah, said, O Iblis, what is the matter with thee that thou hast not been together with those who bowed down? 32. Said Iblis, it is not fitting for me to bow down before a man whom you have created from thick clay, from clay that is wet and changed in color and smell. 33. He, Allah, said, come forth from here, from the heavens. Verily, thou art the deprived of my favor, the accursed. 34. And verily, my curse will remain upon you until the day of judgment. 35. Said Iblis, my Lord, grant me a reprieve until the day when they, your slaves, shall be raised. 36. Said he, Allah, verily, thou art of those who have been given a postponement until the day. 37. The time of the occurrence of which is known to Allah, the day when all living things will die. 38. Said Iblis, O Lord, because thou hast brought me down, I will surely adorn the posterity of Adam with the sins that are on the earth, and will surely lead them all away from the true path. 39. Except those of thy servants who are sincerely obedient only to thee and seek only thy contentment. 40. Said Allah, this is the straight path leading to me. 41. Verily, my slaves, you have no power over them except those of the misguided who follow you. 42. However, these ayats by themselves to a person who has not studied the Quran thoroughly, do not answer the question as to why the jinn committed such an immoral act. For this purpose, let us also turn to ayat 56 of Surah Az-Zariyat, which is known to Muslims. I created the jinn and humans only so that they may worship me. Surah Al-Zariyat, 56. The words of Allah Almighty mean that Adam and Iblis were created for the sole purpose of serving the Almighty through worship. That is, they are equal to each other in the sense of being. However, Iblis expressed his categorical disagreement with this position, i.e. with Adam's equality, for he realized his advantage over the first man, since Allah created man from potter's clay and the jinn from pure fire. It was the realization of his exceptional position that gave Iblis an excuse to commit such an act, which was in accordance with the Creator's supreme will and his predestination. So to think that the Shaitan dared to disobey and oppose his Creator would be a profound error. In our opinion, this story of the fall of Iblis is an explanation of the origins of the dialectical nature of Islam. Iblis is an ordinary genie who serves the will of the Almighty to test people during our earthly existence. The apparent reason for his disobedience was that Iblis was created out of pure fire. Fire in this case represents the most powerful divine energy, capable of creating miracles, growing bread, building cities, creating machinery that facilitates people's labor and leisure. However, it can also contribute to the creation of terrifying weapons that cause the death of thousands and thousands of people, atomic and hydrogen bombs, missiles and shells that raze cities to the ground. Energy, through scientific discoveries, can cure people of disease, and it can also serve to invent pathogens, mutants that threaten the basis of all life on Earth. Therefore, the story of Iblis' disobedience is a profoundly moralizing information, a warning to people in the centuries to come. Allah has laid out a specific story, a warning to future generations of people about the consequences of the worship of energy, i.e., scientific thought. In essence, Iblis is modern scientists competing in scientific discoveries for million-dollar prizes. Yes, there were and will be representatives of the scientific sphere, for whom morality, concern for the welfare of people above the desire to earn fame and money. Einstein was against the development of the atomic bomb, knowing the consequences of its use. However, the overwhelming majority of scientists are atheists who are confident in their illusory power, for this earthly world is the greatest illusion created by Allah to test people. They ignore the will of the Most High, who demands worship of Adam, i.e. service to all people on earth for the sake of the good. Along with making people's labor and life easier, scientists create artificial products that ruin human health. And if to take as a whole, science from the moment of its origin served laziness and greed of Europeans. The demographic crisis, which is expressed in the fall of the birth rate of the white man, spending hundreds of billions of dollars on drugs and treatments for old and new diseases specifically prove that modern scientists, servants of Iblis, still do everything to harm people. But not to those who follow the path of worship of Allah Almighty. As stated in the Holy Quran, Iblis has no power over true believers, for they are under the protection of the Creator. Exceeding the birth rate of Muslims by 5 to 10 times over the number of newborn Europeans proves that following the path of the Almighty is the only true option for the development of mankind. History of the character. Who is Iblis in Islam and how he is related to Satan in Christianity? Iblis, emphasis on the second syllable, is the supreme demon of evil, the king of the jinn, who drew the wrath of Allah upon himself and was cast down to earth before the Last Judgment. Researchers even today argue about the true nature of this mythological hero, building theories based on sacred texts. History of the creation of the character. In Islam, jinn are part of the universe, coexisting with humans and angels since the beginning of history. Iblis is often called Shaitan, evil spirit. In Christianity his analog is the devil himself, or Satan. This is interesting. In Muslim tradition, he is also given the name Aduwwu Allah, which translates as enemy of Allah. In some legends he appears as Azazel or Haris. In the book of Enoch we find Azazel, the demon of the desert, who opposed God. Obviously, we are talking about one character, a fallen angel who became proud and went against the Creator. Such an image was known in Christianity, Judaism and paganism in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century. And its appearance in the world became a certain attempt to explain the reason of presence of evil, unbelief and other sinful tendencies in people. A controversial point remains the question of whether Iblis can be identified with Shaitan. In translation from Arabic, the name of the latter corresponds to such concepts as estrangement and disobedience. The meaning of the name Iblis is one who causes despair. Although some sources claim that the etymology of the name is related to the ancient Greek epithets slanderer and evil one. According to Islamic mythology, there are many evil spirits. All of them exist to tempt a person. They interfere with the reading of prayers, induce to ungodly deeds. However, the sacred texts say that the supreme demon of evil was not originally a Shaitan, moreover, had a different name and was close to God. And only after the exile received such a status, starting to do dark deeds on earth. Image and biography of Iblis. According to the text of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, the genie was originally called Haris, which means the laborer. God created him from fire, and he served his Creator faithfully. Allah noticed his efforts and decided to include him among the celestials. When the Almighty created the first man, Adam, he commanded the angels to prostrate before him. But Haris refused to bow down, explaining that he himself came out of the mighty fire, while Adam was molded from clay. This angered God, and he threw the jinn back down to earth, giving the proud one a new name Iblis. It is mentioned 11 times in the Quran. He, in turn, asked the Creator to delay the punishment until the day of judgment and allow him to show the true righteous who would not be tempted. The Almighty agreed, and since then the fallen angel stayed in the human world, every day seducing people into bad deeds and testing their faith. Such a legend has become a subject of study for researchers. There are theories that after the coming of the Last Judgment the demon will go to hell and will endlessly stay in agony next to his minions, Shaitans. Other hypotheses interpret the biography of the mythological character from a different point of view. Thus, according to the Islamic theologian Ibn Arabi, the refusal of the jinn to worship a man was associated with the violation of true monotheism. Therefore, the tempter will receive forgiveness from the Almighty, and today helps Allah in the search for true righteous people worthy of eternal life next to him. Anyway, having become a Shaitan, the supreme demon corresponded to his destiny. And with the first deed he coped without difficulty, seduced Adam and Eve to try the forbidden fruit, which subsequently led to the expulsion of the first people from paradise. There was a division of everything in the world into righteous and wicked, good and evil. The fallen angel succeeded in the craft of temptation, proving to Allah how imperfect his creations were. This success was due to the fact that he possessed wisdom and insight, and knew how to confuse the pious. Promising wealth, power or authority, he turned a man away from faith. Meanwhile, his army was growing. He created shaitans, promising each one a reward if they lied to as many people as possible. Soon there were so many of them that every person had a tempter near him, pushing him to commit sin. As a result, God's favorite creatures learned to cheat, swear, kill, commit adultery, and forget about prayers. And the satisfied genie sent sinners straight to hell. According to legends, the demon prefers to be in abandoned buildings, unclean places and cemeteries. His appearance remains a mystery, because the Almighty did not find it necessary to show people the true face of the fallen angel. However, in the images in the books he appears as a man in dark clothes, with hooves and horns. Also in the legends indicate that the king of hell is free to appear in any guise, or remain invisible. Iblis and his intrigues. Parallel to the world of people, according to Muslim belief, there is a world of jinns. These creatures can actively penetrate our planet and influence the behavior of its inhabitants. The head of the evil jinn is considered to be Iblis, who seeks to harm every person and mislead us. Let's consider how believers can protect themselves from his influence. The curse of Iblis. Iblis was created by Allah before the appearance of humans. For his obedience he was honored with the highest stages of paradise, reaching the level of angels. As is known, even before the creation of Prophet Adam, the jinn were settled on earth. Committing many sins, they fell into such deep immorality that God sent Iblis to them, who brought them back to the path of truth. This story is very similar to what awaits people before the second coming. There is a shaitan near every human being 24 hours a day, who encourages us to sin and refuse to do good deeds. What is the difference between shaitan and Iblis? First, there are many shaitans and their number is known only to Allah, while Iblis is one. Secondly, shaitans are mortal like humans, while Iblis will exist until the day of judgment. Thirdly, the shaitans are the followers of Iblis who fulfill all his demands without question. A hadith says, "Verily, Iblis created his throne and then began to send his army, i.e. shaitans. The closest to him is the one who creates the greatest confusion, Muslim." By turmoil here is meant all the worst sins such as murder, adultery, drinking alcohol, all of which lead the servants of Allah away from the true path and truly please Iblis. The fate of Iblis. On the day of resurrection, all the creatures of the Creator, including the jinn, will have to answer to their great Lord. A special fiery throne will be built for Iblis, where he will be seated and a chain of curses will be put around his neck. Every man and jinn who follows Satan's instructions will be cast into the flames of hell. Iblis will bear his punishment forever, but people who had faith in their hearts will be able to get out of hell after a certain period of time and find themselves in paradise. Iblis on the Day of Judgment. Tafsir al-Sadi, the Cow. 2-167. Those who followed others will say, if we had another chance, we would have disowned them, just as they disowned us. In the same way Allah will show them their deeds so that it will grieve them. They will never come out of the fire. The disbelievers who followed in the footsteps of their leaders will wish to return to the worldly life and will renounce those whom they followed. They will renounce polytheism and wish to serve Allah alone sincerely. However, they will achieve nothing, for the time will have passed when people were granted a reprieve. Moreover, their words and promises will be false, for if they were returned to the mortal world, they would still commit forbidden deeds. They will make their unsubstantiated statements because of their fierce hatred for the leaders of unbelief, whom they will deny. The sin of these preachers of evil would be most grievous, and Iblis would be at their head. The Almighty has said, when the deed is accomplished, the devil will say, "Verily, Allah's promise was true, and I promised you, but I did not keep my word to you. I had no power over you. I called you and you obeyed me. Therefore do not blame me, but blame yourselves. I cannot help you and you cannot help me. I have no part in what you formerly worshipped me. Verily, torturous suffering is reserved for the lawless. 14:22. Al-Baqarah, Ayat 167. How is Iblis different from Shaitan in Islam? The name Iblis appears quite often in Islamic sacred texts. It is the name of a jinn who was once close to Allah and lived among the angels. But then the Almighty cast Iblis down from heaven. It is because of this story that the genie Iblis is often identified with Shaitan. However, this is not entirely correct. Who is Shaitan? In order to understand the difference between Iblis and Shaitan, it is necessary to understand who Shaitan is. In Arabic, the word Shaitan means disobedience, delusion, estrangement. According to Islamic teachings, Shaitan is not one, there are many of them. And the main mission of Shaitans is to lead people away from the righteous path, and thereby alienate them from Allah. Shaitans encourage believers to commit sins, hinder them during prayer, teach them sorcery, and sometimes even induce them to commit evil deeds under a plausible pretext. Shaitans can be people, animals and even jinns. The first name of Iblis. According to the text of Imam Rida, the genie Iblis originally had a very different name. His name was Haris, which translates from Arabic as guardian or laborer. Allah created Haris from fire, and he began to serve him fervently. God noticed this and brought Haris so close to himself that the genie became his own among the heavenly angels. But one day, when Allah created Adam and ordered all the angels to worship the first man, Haris refused to do so. God asked Haris what was the reason for his disobedience. And Haris replied that he considered himself superior and better than Adam, as the latter was made of ordinary clay, whereas Haris was made of mighty fire. After these words, Allah cast the jinn down from heaven and gave him a new name, Iblis, which can be translated as despair, hopelessness. Finally, Iblis asked the Almighty to delay his punishment until the day of judgment and threatened to seduce as many believers as possible. So Iblis became a Shaitan. Iblis is the leader of Shaitans. Due to the fact that Iblis, according to the Muslim doctrine, is one of the first Shaitans in the world, all other Shaitans are just his followers and subordinates. Besides, Iblis himself can produce new Shaitans. However, Iblis and Shaitan should not be identified. Firstly, because originally the jinn Iblis was not a Shaitan, because Allah expelled him from heaven only after he refused to obey him. Furthermore, Iblis is merely the name of the jinn given to him by God after his expulsion. Whereas the term Shaitan applies to any living being, whether human, animal or jinn, who has committed a sinful act or exhibited disobedience. Iblis in culture. The image of the devil has permeated the culture of many countries around the world. In Islamic paintings, the chief Shaitan was depicted as a hideous man with a black face and body. Later, such a feature became associated with a satanic figure revealing a damaged nature. An interesting fact, the demon in the illustrations wears a special headdress, which differs from the traditional turban. The scene of the expulsion of the genie from the Garden of Eden is widely spread in painting. This mythological character was mentioned in Shahnameh, an epic poem by Persian poet Ferdowsi, which became a national epic. In 1924, the State Turkic Theatre premiered the play Iblis by Hussein Javid, with the role of the genie played by the author himself. In a sense, this work was revolutionary. The Azerbaijani poet and playwright refuted the prevailing opinion that the devil is the source of troubles on earth. According to a quote from the interview, Hussein noted that the real enemies of mankind were ruthless kings, emirs, shahs, kings and beks of any country. And in 2007 Ramiz Hassanoglu made a movie The Life of David, where the description of the tragic fate of the poet is shown against the background of his works. The image of the demon, according to the director's idea, was presented in several forms. So, the ruler of hell became a bandit, then a priest, then an investigator of the NKVD. The actor Mame Safa played such an ambiguous character, a symbol and embodiment of universal evil. Interesting facts. In Sufism, the description of the evil spirit is significantly different from the image of the Christian devil. The latter, according to religious views, acts on his own will. Iblis tempts people with the permission of Allah. Russian imams have put forward a proposal to call ISIS the Iblis state. Such a phrase definition in relation to the terrorist organization was also found in the speeches of Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. The religious character appeared in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. Thus, in the game Sonic the Hedgehog he appeared as a constituent part of Solaris along with Mephiles. The Islamic devil is also mentioned in the animated film The Snow Queen 3, Fire and Ice as a fire spirit.